Well, there are quite a few of you. Hi, I feel like at a rock concert. Should I say something like, how are you doing, Kraków? Wow. Well, I need to warm you up, so I'm going to have a few questions for you. Just to warm you up, just to get going, I will be asking questions, and you are invited to raise your hands. Who of you knows what Web3 is? Well, there's a handful of hands raised. So the second question is for those of you who know what Web3 is about. Who believes that Web3 might be the future of the internet? Okay. Now, the other way around. Who believes that Web3 is a scam? I don't know what what purpose it serves. Well, no one raised their hand. If you felt like raising your hand but was embarrassed, how many of you lost because of investing in cryptocurrencies? Right. Well, this is what we're going to talk about today, the Web3 technology, the Web3 world. Web3 is an interesting world. Well, irrespectively of what it is, we will go back to the definition. But as you start reading about Web3 on the internet, for instance, on Twitter, Twitter was very active, moderating debates on Web3. There have been so many discussions on Web3 and whether Web3 is going to be the future of the internet. And it's interesting because if you take a look at people who used to be opponents of Web3 and have suddenly become enthusiasts of Web3, well, there have been so many of them. Lots of people who were against Web3 and have become largely enthusiastic about it. Some of them are celebrities, some of them are less known. But, you know, if you try the Web3 cookie, you become addicted to it, you might say. But what is Web3? Let's go back to the definition. Not too many people raise their hands, so I suppose you might be interested in Web3, but possibly you do not yet know what Web3 is all about. So let's start from the beginning. Here's a definition. I could, go into details, but I only have 20 minutes for my presentation, so I would rather use an example. Web3 must have been preceded by Web2 or Web1. It sounds logical, even though things are not necessarily logical, because, sci-fi movies usually start from the sequel, and then they go back to the prequel. Often we start from season 4 and then go back to season 1. But even in our industry, you might remember that we started from part 2 and then went back to part 1, and also some of the Polish writers would do the same. But historically speaking, there used to be Web 1. Web 1 was followed by Web 2, and now we are witnessing Web 3 reality. Web 1 was the beginning of the internet, servers, access to different resources. You might remember what the internet looked like. It was really poor. You could enter a website, you could read some information, you could find a link to another web page, and that was it. That was Web 1. The internet of consumers was about downloading content, but content was managed by persons who had access to servers. Web 1 was still a revolution because all of a sudden we had access to information that was so far away, hundreds or thousands of kilometers away from us. Before, we only had access to information via the TV or the radio. But then, in 1999, it turned out that that was not enough. And that was when Web 2 was mentioned. And in 2004, after the dot-com bubble, Web 2 developed, gained momentum. So there was the dot-com bubble, a lot of money was invested, a lot of money was lost, and companies wanted to reinvent the internet. And the concept was that the internet was to be based on content generated by users, user-generated content. So user-generated content is what Web 2 is all about. All the blogs, all the platforms such as YouTube, social social media, and so forth. So that's Web 2. We no longer passively receive information, but we also create content. We generate content. We may generate content directly when uploading posts or pictures, but we also generate content indirectly by leaving comments on the internet, by clicking on whatever we want to click on. And then all of a sudden, people started thinking that, okay, it's nice now, we read content, we consume content, but we also generate content. But the question is, who owns the digital content? So Web3 is all about retrieving ownership. We generate content, but we also own content, and we should be able to prove it that we own digital content. So ownership is the foundation of Web3. We do not need a go-between. We do not need Mark Zuckerberg. We do not need a platform that is only a go-between. We want to own content directly. And so digital assets are created. There's value that's generated on the internet, and we do not need any intermediaries to prove our ownership. What follows is a handful of other concepts, because if there's ownership, then there's identity as well. And those of you who know what cryptocurrencies are all about will know that there's a cryptocurrency portfolio or passport. I actually prefer to use the word passport. And so passport is our ID that allows us to access Web3. So in the past, we lived in the Web 1 reality. Afterwards, a lot of platforms appeared on the internet that we had to log in to access. And all of a sudden, it turned out that we had hundreds of different digital IDs. We had a Facebook account, we had a Twitter account, we had a YouTube account, and the Web 2 world realized that it was not okay to have so many different identities. So signature mechanism was created, and using your Facebook account, you can log in to other platforms. But the problem is that if Facebook blocks your account, you won't be able to access other platforms. So yes, in a way, we have a single digital identity now, but you do not own your identity, because someone can simply switch your identity off, can block your access to other platforms. Another important aspect of the Web3 world is a system of incentives, a system of tokens. Because Web3 technology is based on tokens, and tokens represent a microeconomy of sorts. You can treat a single token as an element of microeconomy, because tokens might be your shares in a given project. You might be giving tokens out to people. You can co-manage tokens. And so there's decentralized management. Tokens might be distributed amongst people at the very outset as a form of incentive. And so Web 2 that has introduced social media also introduced the concept of tokens. So, for instance, it's an incentive for you to be present on Facebook because all of your friends are on Facebook. But at some point, you no longer have an additional motivation, an additional incentive, because everyone already is on Facebook, so Facebook managers will take advantage of it. But if you distribute tokens at the very beginning, you will be motivated to be one of the first. You will be encouraged to be amongst the handful of people who have the advantage. And so in a way, that accelerates your start. So at the very beginning, the system of incentives is much stronger than in the Web 2 reality. Okay, but what are the links with the blockchain technology? I've already said it a couple of times that there should be no intermediaries for us to be able to prove our ownership, our identity. And so decentralization is necessary. We need to know who owns digital content without intermediaries, without a notary public such as Facebook. Why do we need decentralization? Well, for Web3 to be up and running, we need a decentralized system such as blockchain. Blockchain technology was designed in order to perform money transfers, just like Bitcoin. And if on top of that you place all of the other aspects of Web3, you will have a decentralized, independent value transfer system. Okay, but why is it worth being interested in it? And where are we? Where do we stand in terms of Web3? Here's a diagram that was highly commented and shared amongst users a few months ago. Take a look at internet versus crypto adoption. Well, I suppose in 1997 you don't remember what the internet looked like. Well, it was very different from what the internet is today. But we are still we're still at the verge of a large bubble. I believe that a large bubble and a large crisis is still ahead of us. Okay, so what is the state of play of Web3? Let me focus on what has already been developed. Well, value transfer is native for the blockchain technology, and decentralized finances, DeFi, has already been developed. There are some mechanisms that are not available in the banking reality around us. Some mechanisms will really speed up and facilitate processes so that you can manage finances on the internet. Some of the mechanisms are still risky, but they do come with a lot of new opportunities. I believe that we are now at a stage of infrastructural development. So it's a bit like going back to the 1990s, when we did not have superb applications that were user-oriented. Most of the projects are highly technological infrastructural that will be used by developers, by entrepreneurs. There are a few projects that are user-oriented, but most of them are highly infrastructural, which does not come as a surprise because we need to come up with the building blocks of Web3 first. So now, on to the UX, broadly understood user experience design. We are meeting here at the Design Ways conference, so I believe it's only proper that we discuss UX as well. Not many people understand what UX design is all about. Often people are confused, and it may lead to misunderstandings. But in my opinion, UX design is one of the key components of Web3. And for us to think of the adoption of the Web3 technology, well, we need to focus on UX. I talked to Beata Skorzyk. You might know her. She's a very smart person. And what she said was that whoever makes blockchain more accessible will win the main prize. So Beata Szyszka, she is the author of those words. Whoever makes blockchain easily accessible will win the main prize. Remember about that, please. So let me show you a few things now. The difference between Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3, and let me show you how things work under Web 3. Some of the solutions are not yet mature but this is just a small portfolio of examples. You will remember that in the past, you had to log in to all of the platforms separately, so you had to sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook, sign in with Twitter, but now you have the single digital identity, you have the single digital passport, and you can log in with a single digital identity. Because, you know, in the past, the way it worked was you had to sign in with Facebook, sign in with Twitter, sign in with Google. We wanted to change that under Web3, but unfortunately, well, you still have the same request. Sign in with Facebook, sign in with Twitter, or sign in with Google. So again, a number of options. It has to be solved, but so far we have not managed to do that. Error messages. Well, if you're not a programmer, you will not understand it, because most likely this is what it looks like. Code -62603. Well, I don't know what that means. So that's the error message. These are some common mistakes. Blockchain. Well, Web3 is not a single blockchain. Web3 is about the blockchain technology, but there are different networks. Change network selection. This is a message that you may come across, because it will turn out that one application uses one blockchain network, another application uses another blockchain network. That should be made more uniform so that you do not come across such errors and all of a sudden find out that this is the wrong network selection. The time of transaction, well, blockchain as a system requires time, and the more time passes by, the more safe you are. You feel more secure that no one will steal your money. Because what we're used to is that you click on a button and things happen in real time and it takes seconds. This is not what happens under Web3, because in the background there are so many things that are up and running. So designers of Web3 solutions sometimes forget about the fact that it will take some time for a transaction to be completed. Retrieving your accounts, that's a very complicated subject again, because under Web 2 you have the intermediary who manages your account. That's comfortable. If you forget your password, I can ask for my password to be retrieved, and then, you know, the request goes to Mark, for instance, and Mark says, okay, here's a new password, and you can retrieve your account. But under Web 3 you will have to remember 12 or 14 different words, such as the ones quoted here, like dog, toaster, elephant, waffles, monkey, this is not real. That's not easy. You have to get accustomed to it, but I'm sure that we can come up with a better system, one that does not require an intermediary, a go-between, but one that does not require you to jot down a dozen different words on a piece of paper. Some people keep asking, well, but what if I lose my account? What if I lose the money? What if my dog eats the piece of paper with the phrase jotted down on? Well, yes, this is a problem that has to be solved. And finally, language, terminology. Even myself, a person who's familiar with the reality, I find it difficult to understand the language spoken. So you need to have your target audience in mind. People need to be taken by hand. The language has to be comprehensible. You should not make it difficult for users using difficult terminology. And there are so many difficult terms, obscure terms that cannot be understood. If you're happy to learn about Web3, and if you feel like reading through the training materials, you will find it very difficult to understand what it's about quite often. Well, that's it on my part. I just wanted to give you a taste of the Web3 technology. What's most important, what errors have been made. My name is Szymon Paluch. I am an IT consultant. I help designers converse into the Web3 technology. I can help you enter the Web3 world. If you're interested in it, I will be here. I'm at your disposal. You can approach me after the presentation. Otherwise, you can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. I discuss the Web3 technologies using these different channels. I also carry out interviews with innovators. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.